All right, today we're going to dive into one of life's most fundamental, yet, let's be honest, often overlooked processes, the phosphorus cycle. We're going to follow the incredible journey of an element that really forms the foundation of our biology, all while moving to what you could call Earth's slowest rhythm.
So, to get started, here's a little riddle for you. What is it that powers every single living cell on this planet, but unlike carbon or nitrogen, never ever travels on the wind?
If you guessed phosphorus, you got it. It's truly the hidden building block, kind of the unsung hero of biology. And today we're going to follow this essential element on its remarkable and, well, remarkably slow journey through our world.
So just how essential are we talking? We'll put it this way. Without phosphorus, life as we know it would just stop. It's a core piece of ATP, the energy currency that fuels every single one of your cells. It forms the literal backbone of DNA and RNA, the blueprints of life itself. It also creates the phospholipid membranes that act like tiny guardians for our cells. And for animals like us, it's what gives our bones and teeth their strength. It's everywhere that matters.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting, because phosphorus isn't always easy to get in nature. It often plays the role of a limiting nutrient. And what that means is its availability is the main bottleneck, the one single factor that controls how much life an ecosystem can actually support. You could say it's the ultimate gatekeeper of growth.
Okay, so if it's so important, where does it all come from? Well, this is where the cycle really begins its journey, from rock to life. See, unlike other major cycles, the vast majority of Earth's phosphorus isn't floating in the air or dissolved in the ocean. It's locked away deep inside rock and sediment.
We can think of this first part of its journey as a kind of fast-paced biological relay race. First up, weathering slowly grinds down rocks, releasing phosphate into the soil. Then, bam, the baton is passed to plants, which absorb it, bringing it right into the food chain. Next, animals get in on the action, getting their phosphorus by eating those plants or other animals. And finally, decomposers like bacteria and fungi do the cleanup, breaking down waste and returning that phosphorus to the soil, ready for the whole race to start all over again.
But hold on, because that super fast biological relay, that's only half the story. After that relatively quick loop through the living world, phosphorus begins its long return home, a slow geological journey back to stone that operates on a completely different timescale. And this is where the scale just becomes mind-boggling. Look at this. The biological cycle we just talked about, that happens over a few years. But it can take centuries for that same phosphate to move through soil and into water systems. The process of sedimentation, where it settles on the ocean floor to form new rock, we're talking millions of years. And for that rock to get pushed back up to the surface through geological uplift, eons. It's the sheer length of this geological path that really sets this cycle apart from all the others.
And that incredible slowness is directly tied to the single most unique thing about the phosphorus cycle. Unlike the rapid, globe-trotting cycles of carbon or nitrogen, this is a cycle that happens almost entirely without ever involving the atmosphere.
Let's just put a head-to-head with the carbon cycle for a second. The phosphorus cycle is sedimentary. Its main storage is in rocks, which makes it incredibly slow and pretty localized. The carbon cycle, it's gaseous. Its main reservoir, the atmosphere, making it super fast and global. The key takeaway here is that phosphorus stays grounded. It has no atmospheric fast track.
So we have this ancient, slow-moving system. What happens when we humans show up and start interfering? Well, our activities are now drastically accelerating parts of this cycle, throwing the entire ancient rhythm dangerously out of balance.
The problem, in a nutshell, is nutrient overload. By mining these huge quantities of phosphate rock for agricultural fertilizers and other products, we're basically short-circuiting the entire geological cycle. We're taking phosphorus that should have taken millions of years to surface and just dumping it into our ecosystems all at once. The result is a massive influx into our rivers, our lakes, and our oceans.
And this overload kicks off a tragic chain reaction called eutrophication. Let's just walk through it. First, all that excess phosphate from fertilizer runoff pours into our waterways. Second, this sudden nutrient feast triggers these massive, explosive blooms of algae right on the water's surface. Now, the critical third step happens when all that algae dies and sinks. The bacteria that come in to decompose it use up nearly all the available oxygen in the water. And the final result, step 4, is a total ecosystem collapse. It creates these vast dead zones where fish and other aquatic life just can't survive.
So, to bring this all together, this quote really says it all. The phosphorus cycle is a slow, sedimentary journey from rocks into organisms and back again. It's one of the fundamental rhythms of life on our planet, and it all happens without a single breath of air. And that leaves us with a huge, critical question. Now that we understand this slow, deliberate cycle, and we see how profoundly we've disrupted it, the challenge becomes crystal clear. Can we learn to manage the flow of this essential element and restore the delicate balance that all life on Earth really depends on?